Good morning. We are here today with David Wilkinson, who is the EU Commissioner General for Expo 2015, and with Franz Fischler, Chairman of the Expo 2015 Scientific Steering Committee and ex-EU Commissioner for many years.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are here to discuss the scientific angle of the EU participation at the Expo in Milan. And as we know, EU attaches a great importance to research as a way to develop a sustainable food system and to increase the capacity to respond to the demand of a changing world. So why is the EU taking part in the World Expo Milano 2015, Mr. Wilkinson?
I think that Expo Milano 2015 really gives us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I think that there are two main objectives. First of all, we can communicate to the general public what the EU is doing. And we're doing an enormous amount in terms of food security for the planet as a whole. But secondly, we have an opportunity for interactive policy development. There'll be 147 countries and international organizations participating. And clearly feeding the planet is a global problem. So we can take the opportunity of having all these different organizations and countries involved to look globally at how to tackle this. And I think that's really one of the key objectives of the Expo for the EU.
But why is science so important, and what could be the EU scientific contribution to this Expo, Mr. Fischler?
Well, yes. First of all, I think we must be aware that the system of the past, how we produced food in the past, cannot continue like it was in the future. So therefore, we are dependent on innovation. And without research and without development, there will be no innovation. We must be aware that we have still more than 800 million hungry people on our globe. We must know that about 2 billion people are starving from micronutrients. And on the other side, we have 2 billion people who are either obese or overweighted. So therefore, research is really key for our common future, and we will never achieve global food security without investing and substantially investing in research and development.
So this is the general picture, but what are the objectives of this steering committee? Maybe both of you can tell me something.
Franz, do you want to go first?
Well, why not? The objectives of the steering committee is, first of all, to identify all the research areas where new additional research is needed. Second, that we identify research priorities. Third, that we find ways how we organize research and how we develop a kind of knowledge chain, yeah? Because it's not only about research, this is the first step. We must also then continue with applied research and then with new technologies, with the invention of new technologies, and it goes then on until the end where we have to make business models out of these new ideas and new findings.
So it's not only research for the sake of research, but it could be applied to real life and to real problems in a short term.
That's right, and I think that one of the key things here, and the reason why the Commission, together with the European Parliament, have set up the steering committee under France's chairmanship, is that we want to make sure that we can leave a legacy after the Expo. There's 6 months of intense interaction going on. There'll be many scientific events, including something like 30 which have actually been organized by the steering committee. But we need to be sure that at the end there's something to show for it, and that we can leave a message for the various different stakeholders, policymakers in the Commission and in fact in the rest of the world, so that we can get the benefit out of this unique opportunity that Expo represents.
And there's no doubt, I mean, this is a worldwide issue. It's not only a European issue, but we have to ask ourselves, what is the European contribution? Where can we make a difference? And where are we skilled enough? And where are we amongst the front runners in the research areas? And there we should invest.
Can you tell us something more on really the challenges and the priorities that you identify with your steering?
We identified altogether 7 areas where we think we should put priority. One is the issue of land. Is there more land, or can we make more land available? How is it with land registration? How is it with contamination of land, and so on and so forth, ownership, what have you? The second part, and maybe the biggest part, is how can we produce more, or how can we produce enough food for 9 billion people? Then the third question is, how do we increase food safety? Then there is not only the issue related to food as such. I think we need a broader approach. We must include also rural development. And then the next question is nutrition. How can we, or what is the right diet also for different people? And this leads then to the next issue, which is equality. So how can we achieve a system where each people and each age group, for example, gets the right diet? Senior food, food for children, food for people who are allergic against certain substances, and so on and so forth.
So, Mr. Wilkinson, at the end, the contribution of the steering committee chaired by Mr. Fischler would be one of the main contributions that EU gives to the Milan Expo and leave as a legacy?
I would certainly say that. I mean, one important message, of course, is the issue of the climate change, which has a double effect, because on the one hand, climate change can make it more difficult to produce enough food, obviously with desertification in some areas. But at the same time, food production has an increasing effect on climate. Methane, of course, from animals, and the CO2 that's generally used for energy production, and food is an energy-intensive business. So we need to ensure also that we send the right message into the Paris climate meeting in December of this year. And again, I would hope that our steering committee can pave the way a little bit to give to help with the EU message for Paris, the Paris COP on climate.
The paper also refers to structural issues in the research area. So what would be these issues that you would face with your steering committee?
Well, I think this is a very important point you are mentioning, because also there we must change our traditional thinking, how we organize research and how we organize science. It must be clear that the whole food system is a very complex system. And therefore, because of this complexity, we cannot deal with this complexity if we have only one discipline. Yeah? So it needs cooperation, it needs interdisciplinarity, and this has to be organized. In addition to that, we have to think along the whole innovation chain. And also this must be part of a new approach. And then there's the question, how do we communicate the findings? Because we also know, I mean, we have to be realistic, that there are many sensitivities out there against GMOs and against many other things. So how do we deal with communication is an important issue. And then also, how do we organize the cooperation between the researchers and the stakeholders. And finally, we are not alone, so we need also a coordination and cooperation with the rest of the world. And all these things is what, in our understanding, the new structural approach.
So to play this global role could be one of the main contributions that EU gives to the Milan Expo, Mr. Wilkinson?
Well, I think that we can play a leading role, of course, working with the major trading partners throughout the world. And I think that there are opportunities, of course, because by attempting together to solve some of these big-scale planetary problems, we will create the industries of the future, which will be the source of future economic growth and jobs also here in Europe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. Thank you, Mr. Fischler. And
Thank you for inviting us.
yes, and see you in Milan.
See you in Milan.
See you.